Hi, this is Chris Voss here from the ChrisVossShow.com, the Chris Voss Show, and welcome to another episode of the Chris Voss Show Podcast. We certainly appreciate you tuning in. Be sure to give us a like, subscribe to us, hit that bell notification on your mobile device so you get all the notifications of everything we're doing on the Chris Voss Show as well. We certainly appreciate you guys tuning in. It's a wonderful audience. Wow, we took a little bit of time off, and holy crap, just tons of downloads. So people are just eating up the podcast, and please refer it to your friends, neighbors, relatives, dogs, cats, mistresses, pool boys. Get everybody in on the action. Hell, just play it for the cockroaches at home while you're at work. They like the podcast too. Besides, they might leave and become entrepreneurs, and then you'll have a clean home. So there's that. Anyway, guys, we have a most wonderful technological guest as always. It is John Sallaway, and John is the CEO and co-founder of vSpatial. It's a virtual reality productivity and collaboration application that leverages the immersed nature of spatial computing to connect users to their teams and their data in new, innovative ways. He was born with an entrepreneur spirit. Wow, he started his first venture at age 14. How about them apples? Which he eventually sold to pay for law school. I got to tell you, that's a brilliant way to pay for law school. Prior to joining vSpatial, John enjoyed a successful legal career where he practiced law and gained valuable management experience. His prior firm employed an innovative business model, which gave John experience managing 60 young and remote attorneys distributed across the United States. From his experience, he became passionate about working with the millennial generation and embracing a remote work model. He believes in the next generation's ability to shape the future and how to do our jobs, and he's one of two of us that believe in that. Anyway, welcome to the show, John. Thanks for coming in.
Chris, great to be here. Thank you for having me.
Good. I mean, my little millennial joke punch there. So, John, give us your plugs so people can take and see you on the interwebs and check you out.
Sure. We got all the regular channels. You can check us out at vSpatial.com. Our Twitter handle is vSpatial at vSpatialVR. My personal is at John Sallaway, and you can take it from there.
Cool, man. Cool. So there's a lot of interesting conversation going on in the news coming up with the new Magic Leap glasses, goggles that are out. I think they're like $2,300 and stuff like that. And you guys are working in the VR space. So give us an idea of what your project is about, what your company's doing, and what you're trying to accomplish as a whole.
Sure. We are vSpatial, the company, a group of about 16 of us. We are serial entrepreneurs. We engage in that grittiness and adventurous spirit of entrepreneurs. But what we're really passionate about is the future of work and the role that virtual reality and augmented reality, spatial computing are going to play in the future of work. So our application, vSpatial, the application, is a productivity and collaboration room you enter into, and all of the applications that are open on your PC populate their own screen around you. Think about like Iron Man or that Tom Cruise movie, right? Where they're moving the screens around with their hands and putting them in places that they want to. And so you're able to be connected to your data in an intuitive way, move it around with your hands, and then all of that while you're talking to your coworkers, your teammates from anywhere in the world. So that's what our application is about.
So spatially, when you guys say spatial, that refers to being able to use space to manage your data. Is that a correct assumption?
That's correct. The 3D environments, being able to use the space the way that you want to, but also the spatial audio, where you feel like you're in an actual room with the participants, where if someone on your left talks to you, it sounds like they're coming from your left, not just from your front, like a webcam or a webcast.
So I believe the movie was Minority Report, I think, where he was doing the screens and stuff like that and all that sort of stuff.
That's right.
Yeah, that was pretty awesome. I think a lot of people saw that, and I've seen news over the years of people, accomplishing that. So you would do that in the VR world format. So you get your VR glasses on, and you're just managing your world. You can take your calendar and move it over here, task lists, and I suppose whatever else you want to take a work on, interactive, 3D, communications, telecommunications, maybe like a room full of people. Like maybe we could do that with you here. We could just be like, ugh.
Yeah, absolutely. You've got it right. And I think when we when we saw those images in popular culture, they're pretty popular. I think they intuitively spoke to us and thought, wow, that'd be really cool to be able to move your information around that way and to be interactive with your data, not just viewing it. And so these are the images that younger folks, Gen X and millennials, have grown up on, and I think they kind of expect that they'll be able to do that at some point. And it's now a reality. We're doing it every day.
I remember filming years ago. I was at CES, doing one of the CES shows, and there was like a whole area that people where people were testing out. I think it was a Sony headset or some sort of VR, but they had a whole mess of people, and you saw all these people sitting in chairs going.
Yeah, right.
Either that's a group of epileptic people, or what's going on over there? Yeah,
it's an interesting thing about virtual reality and experiencing it, and
yeah.
I think the industry's figuring that out. Is you're experiencing it, but your friends, the people you're with, are not experiencing it if they're near you. And so augmented reality, virtual reality, they both have that issue to where, how do you bring other people in that are physically with you? It's great for interacting with people that are somewhere else in the world, but yeah, it can be a little awkward for the guys or girls who are not in VR with you.
Yeah. It's really cool, the technologies that are out there and what's coming out. Of course, Magic Leap has just been released, and I guess you guys would be building an app to go on that platform, to my understanding.
Yeah, and it just came out on the 8th, so 2 days ago. Absolutely something that we're interested in. We're trying to figure out. We don't even have a Magic Leap headset yet, but we are rooting for Magic Leap. It's important for them to be successful. It would be a win for them as a win for everyone. I think that's in the VR and AR world, and they've done some incredible things. They've dealt with a lot of hype and managing that, and maybe some of that was of their own doing, but they're doing great things, and we're rooting for them. And absolutely, our application has major potential with the Magic Leap headset.
So, are you going to be able to have your app on other platforms as well?
Sure. We're currently on the Oculus Rift and all of the Windows MR headsets, the HTC Vive, and that's part of our ongoing work, is just making sure that we're on the majority of the more popular headsets. So it'll work across platforms.
So your app is live now. People can download it to their system, utilize it, and all that good stuff.
Absolutely. We're on the Steam store and the Oculus store right now.
Wow, Steam too as well. So what can I do right now? What are some of the things, or what are some of the things you're finding the majority of the people who have downloaded your app are utilizing it for? Right
now, it's being mostly used for productivity. So getting into virtual reality, the studies are fairly conclusive that we're more productive when we have more monitors. There's a limit to that. I mean, you can get too many and then you're overwhelmed. But we're more productive, we're more accurate when we have more monitors. And so in virtual reality, that you don't actually have to buy it, right? You can have, in our app, you can have as many as you want. And so that's what people are using it mostly for now. As a company, we're using it for that, but we're also using it for our meetings. So we can meet with the whole company. We're distributed also across the U.S. We can share documents, we can whiteboard on them, point at things, and have those collaborative sessions. That's something we're still working on getting our current users to understand as a capability and getting them to try that. Right now, it's mostly being used for productivity.
So in your bio, you had talked about how you got experience and you like the remote sort of workplace thing. So what your guys' app does is it makes it a way so that we can work together in a virtual environment, almost like we're side by side in the same office and share documents and stuff like that.
That's exactly right. So, we look at these generations that are coming up. Right now, millennials make up about half of the workforce. By 2030, it'll be 75%, the rest Gen X and younger. And so what do they value? They want to work remotely. They want to work flexibly. There's this rise of the gig economy, which is great. They want all that flexibility and remoteness, if you will, but they also, all of us to some extent, we want to be connected. We want to work with people and collaborate. We can't do great things without a team, without innovation and collaboration. Those are grounded in human interaction. So what we see is that VR and AR, spatial computing, they bridge that gap. They are the answer to you want to be remote, which means you don't want to be next to people, but you also want to be connected. And in VR, AR, you can feel like you're in the same room.
Mm-hmm.
You can hear like you're in the same room. You can share documents like you're in the same room. In the traditional legacy video conferencing, you can share one screen and one person can share one screen, and you hear like, "Can you stop sharing so I can share?" That's not how we collaborate in real life, right? And so in AR, we don't have to do that.
It's interesting to me. A friend of mine still likes playing Second Life. I'm even surprised that game is still around. And it's interesting because it's not a virtual world. It kind of is, where you can see and walk around. You're not virtual like you would be with a headset. But it would be interesting to me to have a future where there is like maybe if you had a Facebook that was virtual and you could like see your friend over there and you walk over and you take a look at his document vault or whatever his posts are, and you can be like, "Hey, that was a good post right there, bud." That would be like an interesting magical world. And of course, I imagine technology-wise, it'd have to be one hell of a giant thing. But the future where we're going is just amazing. And I'm looking so forward to the age where we have these cars it takes where we need to do. We work from home. I've worked from home for I think since 2004, and I love just being able to do business from home in my underwear half the time. My dogs enjoy hanging out with me, and they get plenty of attention, probably too much. When you think about all the pollution we can save, people driving around, and so many offices, companies are adopting what you guys are doing because they're realizing that there's great talent all over the world. And so I know a lot of companies that they don't even really have an official office place when it comes down to it. It's just everybody working out of their homes, coders and everything live virtually around the world. They get together for their virtual meetings, and they work on all the different projects that they're taking and doing, and get up to speed on where the project manager is for the company. And so having something like yours is pretty awesome.
Yeah, when you look at the way things are going, 85% of millennials responded in a recent survey they'd like to work remotely 100% of the time, right? So I think it's pretty much a foregone conclusion that's where it's headed. And in not too many years, I think it'll start to affect commercial real estate. There won't be as much need for that. We talk about the time. I think the average American spends 52 minutes a day on their commute, and you just spoke to it. You feel that when you start working, when you wake up at 7:15 and you're working at 7:25, you're like, wow, this is a lot more productive. I didn't waste an hour getting to work.
Yeah, you think about how much money we pour as a society, as a country, or as a world into building roads, maintaining roads. Pollution effects, of course, the numbers of cars on the road, traffic, of course, like you mentioned. I lived in California for a number of years, and holy crap, I mean, you just plan on spending 4 hours of your day in a car, which is interesting because you go to work for 8 hours, and then, of course, on top of that, you spend another half of the time that you're away from your home in a car driving. They always tell you, when you move to California, buy a really nice car because you're going to spend a lot of time in it. Or at least get something that's comfortable. It has a good stereo. I think it's going to be awesome. I'm really excited about this future. I wish it would come sooner. I'm looking forward to, and I talk about this quite often, I'm looking forward to a virtual world, or a world that we live in where we use our minds, where we sell concepts of ideas, or become a more enlightened society that's not built from the brawn and muscle of slaving away in the hot factories of some sort of steel mill. There's nothing wrong with that, and some people still do it, but certainly to a more enlightened information society where we delve into the concepts of ideas, involving our brains and becoming smarter in that way, as opposed to working our hands and bones and bodies to death until we can't do it anymore. Certainly I need that at my age, being 50, because the body's starting to go, and I'm pretty sure the brain's already half gone, but it's kind of still here. So I just need to have my brain put one of those little things that you see in Futurama and kept alive. I think that's how I'm going to spend the next 40 years or however long I can get out of this run.
Well, you allude to an interesting concept, which I'm excited to see both with what we're doing, but other technology making this available too. There are people all around the world who are on the sidelines, removed from the workforce because of their geographic location. They just can't get to a major metropolitan area every day, or because of their schedule. And we know they're brilliant people on the sidelines. And to the extent that we can connect more people, we're tapping into that resource that you said, just the thoughts and the talent of people that are currently on the sideline because of the normal structure that we have today.
Yeah, I mean, and I think millennials are getting tired of moving to cities. They're starting to see evidence that they don't really like living quite as much in big cities, and they want to move. Mm-hmm. And of course, now millennials are just barely starting to buy homes. So, they're starting to go, hey, living in a big city where there's lots of jobs and lots of opportunity is great, but it's very, very expensive, especially if you're my friends who live in Silicon Valley or Southern California. And we're starting to see some cracks now in the real estate market where, and the millennials that want to move out to the suburbs a little bit more and into areas where they can still work and have jobs and have plenty of money, but cost basis and of course quality of life is much more better. I mean, it's one of the quality of life is one of the reasons I moved back from California to Las Vegas. Mm-hmm. Is because I can just buy a much nicer home here, much nicer quality of life. There's no ticks and fleas here for my dogs, and of course I got a 24-hour city for my single life, which I enjoy.
The Gen X is responsible for coining that phrase "work-life balance." And
well, there you go.
That's the first generation that was associated with that concept, and mm-hmm. that's important. And it's something that they demand. It's something they expect, and it's possible. In technology, they're comfortable relying on technology to help that happen.
Well, I remember back in, I think it was 2010 when Steve Jobs launched the iPad. And I remember seeing these children, these little babies, holding the iPad. And because the tactile function of it is very simplistic, they were able to, play apps and do things on it and do games. Mm-hmm. And I remember talking about that and looking at that, and I thought, what an amazing world these kids are going to grow up in, and what an amazing redo of our world, a revolution of our world they're going to do, because they grew up with these devices in their hands. When I was 12 or 14, I mean, our most intellectual thing was throwing dirt clods against the side of our house to see how they would splay out across the things when they exploded. That was what we did for logical fun. But these kids, they grow up with these devices pretty much in their hand. Almost, I think they come out of the womb now with an Apple iPhone. And to them, it's just natural. To you or me, growing up without, in the age of computing and stuff. I mean, I used to have AOL 1.0, and I think I had Windows 1 or 2.0. Growing up in the, I remember having Windows when that was the only Windows there was, and dealing with the original Mac 2s. But these kids grow up in this environment, and to them it's just natural. I see my friends that have these kids that are like 4 years old. They're wearing VR headsets and they're playing the VR games and doing the interactions with VR. And to them, it's just normal. Like, they look at what we used to do in old media and be like, "You guys are weird."
Well, we see that in our demos. I mean, when we put someone in a VR headset and give them the hand controllers, we try our best to get them acclimated before they're in the environment. How do you do things with your controllers? This does this and this does that. And the young kids, the younger, basically they get right in it. They know how to navigate. They just take right to it like a fish to water, and they are going to kind of lead the way in what VR is used for, how it's adopted, and you're right. They just take right to it. Whereas us older guys, we get in there and close something accidentally and get frustrated and say, "I don't understand this VR stuff."
And I imagine, using your guys' app, how big of a company can you guys handle, or how many different users? Let's say I'm listening to this podcast and I'm like, hey, I should check this out for my company. Well, what sort of things should I be looking for, or utilizations, all that good stuff?
Sure. Right now, the app is free, so we're just looking for people to try it and give us feedback. We're anxious to hear from anyone who's interested in using it. Tell us what they use it for. So we're kind of in that stage right now. But right now, you can meet with up to 4 people at the same time. So it can be distributed company wide. Your meetings are limited to 4. And in the future, the very near future, you'll be able to have 17, 18, I think, are, in one meeting. Beyond that, we look to be able to have education to where you could have a whole classroom in there. And so right now, it's really ready to use for free, and you could distribute it across your whole company to the extent that you have VR headsets for everyone.
That's awesome. The future being able to do this and be able to work in an environment, because I still miss sometimes. I don't miss having all the employees, but I sometimes still miss having an office, and of course maybe sometimes looking professional. It'd be great if I could virtually tap in while I'm sitting in my underwear and my t-shirt, and I've got sometimes huskies running around in the background, where I could just tune in and wear my suit and tie, and people are like, right. Wow, Chris is really professional. And I'm like, clearly you haven't ever tuned into the podcast. But
you mean business today.
Yeah, I mean, and you can have that business environment where you can take and basically have a virtual office. I'm just amazed constantly at people using, I suppose, people that might be good for the app too, or people have multiple virtual assistants or virtual assistant. One thing I've been studying recently, and it's just kind of in my own little sort of journey in being on the Bumble app or the Tinder app. I've kind of noticed that, and and I'm sure there's plenty of data on this, in our human ability to look at faces, recognize faces, make judgments about people. Sometimes I can look at a face and I can determine what the rest of them looks like, but there's kind of this built-in chromosomal caveman, I don't know what you want to call it, because clearly I went to public school. There's this way that we work from a very visual interface with kind of getting along, socializing and stuff. We do the same thing with Facebook, where we have faces, profile pictures. And so when I'm reading or interacting with somebody's Facebook writing, I'm looking at their profile picture and I'm imagining maybe a conversation they might have. Same thing with video, of course, why video is so important. But having a sort of experience that's social and being able to see another person or interact with them, even though it might be a virtual image. I remember when I first got in with some of my friends to talk to them, and I remember walking around the space with them in VR thinking, wow, this is really cool. And they lived in other parts of the world that I wasn't able to spend a lot of personal time with them. But just being able to walk around and like see them, even though I knew it was a virtual image, it just kind of felt like, hey, they're sitting in my living room. We're all here hanging out and everything.
Yeah, I think what the one word that you're describing is what we use a lot in AR and VR, and that's immersive. There is something to that immersion. There's something to that experience that's meaningful. It's a little hard to articulate, a little hard to quantify, but there is, when we're in our end of day meetings, it is right now just a profile picture of my coworkers, but I walk right up to it and we talk about what they did that day and what they're going to do the next day. And there is a tangible difference in that environment than there is with the two-dimensional experience. And it's that the word is immersion, and it's difficult to describe. And the more people we can get into VR to experience it, they kind of all have an aha moment and say, "Oh, okay, this is really cool. I could see where this is going," for a million different use cases.
I need a virtual live-in girlfriend environment so that I can always make sure that the house is clean whenever she comes over.
Yeah.
So she can walk over to me in the virtual environment. I can be like, look how clean the house is.
Yeah. You don't get dust in a virtual environment
over there, huh?
That's I'll note that, and we'll put that in our.
Let's see if you can do that. I also need one that I can cut out the thing when I start getting yelled at for something I clearly did wrong, and I can be like, "You're breaking up. I think the internet's going down."
Yeah. I don't know if I can help you with that.
This future world is going to be amazing that we're going into. In fact, it'll be amazing if you can use VR while you're driving down the road. In one of the one of my friends, Robert Scoble, just got done with almost a 10,000-mile track driving around his Tesla Model 3 all around the nation, and for large part, he drove it with the self-driving thing that was on.
Wow.
And he can't stop talking about the technology, which is amazing for those of us who grew up having to drive ourselves. But his kids are just like, they grow up in this world where they're like, yeah, self-driving cars, big deal, whatever. Yeah, we just expect that sort of thing because we grew up in this world environment.
You can't underestimate the potential of what's coming and the generations that are going to bring it to us. I just get so tired of the ragging on. Well, I know you made a joke in jest about millennials, but you know what? They really do have incredible potential, and I can't wait to see what they do.
Yeah, and in fact, one of my clients is a Gen X expert, and she's doing a lot of stuff in the world of what the next Gen X generation wants. And yeah, we tease millennials. We like to give them a little bit of poking and fun. But yeah, their expectations in the world are changing, and the world they will eventually dominate are going to be pretty awesome. All I just want from you millennials, hi millennials, just please pay my Social Security when I retire. That's all I want. Thanks, appreciate it. Assuming you still have a world in government when we're done with this whole thing we're doing. But if that, you're in the Space Force, so you're beyond Mars doing whatever. So please take me with you. That's all I'm asking. But no, the future of where things are going, especially with the Gen X generation taking the baton from the millennials and where they're going to go with it. It's just going to be awesome between computers and the world they're going to live in, what they're going to do, and becoming just a more enlightened, educated, thinking society where we use our brains more than we use our bodies. Is just going to be an interesting world and where that goes, because we talk so much about the untapped elements of the brain and how much little of it we use, some of us more than others, in using very little of it in the in the world we live in. I think it was George Carlin. He had that great line about 50% of the population in average intelligence. But it's going to be interesting where it's going. So what are some other applications they can take and do with your thing? What are some other features and benefits that can appeal to different companies?
Sure. So right now, like I said, it's used for productivity. You can get in and you can view data on multiple screens, talk to your coworkers, share and collaborate together. One of the things that you can do in virtual reality and will be able to do in our application soon is interact with three-dimensional data. So think of a doctor, a few doctors interacting with a three-dimensional view of an MRI, and so they're able to, it's floating essentially in front of them. It's a real person's brain. It's floating in front of them, and they're able to turn it, open it, expand it, take dissections of it, and point to problem areas or questionable anatomy. And so there's that, and then you can extrapolate that to anything that has to do with three-dimensional data, and that's so manufacturing, retail, and whatever you can, the sky's the limit. What's really exciting about that is starting to go beyond what you can do in reality. You can have a three-dimensional thing. If you have it in reality and you break it, you got to build another one, right? But in virtual reality, if you have it in 3 dimensions and you break it, you just make it again instantly, right? And so there's some real flexibility there that goes beyond even what you can do in person.
I envision from what you're detailing this world where 4 or 5 doctors could go in and they're holding up your brain in like a 3-dimensional thing, and they can spin it around from the MRI, and they can be like, here's where the cancer is, or, you know, whatever they need to do. And they
Right.
can consult with each other as to what the best way to deal with whatever your health application is. And of course, for me, or for probably anyone there, the collaboration of education minds and knowledge, and being able to come up with the best concepts or the best ideas in that collaboration, and being able to share them, and you know, it'd be like, hey, how do we fix this, and being able to have that input on a virtual basis and share the data from it. It's going to be an amazing world that it comes to in the future.
Yeah, and it, you know, it goes. You have to go beyond. That sounds really cool, right? But think about how useful that is. You think if you're a doctor that's removed for whatever reason, geographically, let's say, from an expert in this particular field, but you're the doctor that person has, right? And so you can now meet in a three-dimensional environment with a doctor that's an expert in, you know, the other side of the world, and get a better opinion than what you could just do on your own. And that's not that rural doctor's fault. They're just removed by geography, right? But really what it comes down to is that makes us better at our jobs. It makes the results better for our clients or patients or whatever. And that, to me, is really where the rubber hits the road.
I'm a big believer in making the world a much smaller place, and making us more of a one world that lives under the flag of humanity. And the great things about the concepts of what the millennials want and what everyone's doing in this space is bringing the world together, where geography, I'm sorry, not geology, but geography, is taken away in separating brilliant minds, brilliant knowledge, brilliant collaboration, and we can work in the same space, and the world just becomes more of a one world, one place, where we can all be together and work on great concepts and build a great intellectual society of humanity. And we don't have to deal with, you know, getting on a plane and flying to XYZ. I think there's a lot more doctors now that are doing these. I don't know if it's still in testing, or if I believe it's being applied right now, but where they can do remote laser surgery operations. They don't have to be there. They can work the arms and do the lasers and do surgery and stuff. And it's just going to be an amazing future we're moving to.
Yeah, just again, the connection, right? So we appreciate our space physically, but we need or want to be connected intellectually and to be able to collaborate. And that's just what you described. Being able, I think the word is connection, to be able to connect with your colleagues, with your team, whatever you want to call it, your people. And we're better that way, and geography doesn't have to be a limiting factor anymore. And I think that's really the greatest use case or cause for spatial computing is bringing us together.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So give people a place so they can go to their websites, check you out, download your app, and all that sort of good stuff.
Yeah, please go to www.vSpatial.com. From there, you can find everything else. But we're at vSpatial VR is our Twitter handle. You can find our app and download it in the Oculus store and the Steam store. And we'd love to hear what you think about it.
Sounds good. Everyone check it out. Be sure to check out all the plugs for vSpatial, and be sure to tune in next time. Be sure to give us a like, subscribe to us on YouTube, hit that bell notification button, and refer the podcast to your friends. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you guys next